Autumn in Canada. What a wonderful time of the year.
So many beautiful vegetables, cucumber, cauliflower, carrots.
And so little time to pickle.
If you made a pickle, cause there's nothing left to spread. Got a kitchen full of people and there's nothing in your head. We've got all the answers, got a lot for you in store. Pickles, sauce, chutney, jelly, jams, and more. Put a lid on it, put a lid on it. There's just nothing in the world you can't preserve. Put a lid on it, put a lid on it. And sit back and get the praise that you deserve.
Hello.
Today we're going to give you our second show this season on pickles and relishes. Now we're going to give you a couple of standards, but we're also going to throw in a couple that are a little more exotic and adventurous.
Welcome to Put a Lid on It. Today's show focuses on recipes that are easy enough if you're a novice canner, and yet they're interesting enough for the seasoned preserver. We've selected 4 recipes that we know you're going to love. We're going to show you how to make antipasto relish, pickled asparagus,
Horseradish beet relish, and mixed vegetable mustard pickles. Now these are also known as chow chow.
Now, out of the thousands of recipes for pickles and relishes, we've selected these 4 because we know you're going to love them. So join us in the kitchen and we'll show you how to make them. Welcome to Put a Lid on It. Today we're going to focus on pickles and relishes.
We're going to show you how to make asparagus pickles, and I'm also going to show you an antipasto relish,
Horseradish beet relish, and mixed vegetable mustard pickles. That's what I'm going to start with. And I'm going to talk to you first about your ingredients. What you're going to want to do is put these vegetables to soak overnight. And what you're going to need for vegetables are 1 quart of pickling cucumbers that we have sliced very thickly, 4 cups of cauliflower florets, and 1 cup of tiny peeled onions. Now you're going to take 6 cups of warm water and a half a cup of pickling salt. Combine that, pour it over your vegetables, and allow it to stand for 24 hours. Then you're going to drain it, and we're ready to go. Your other ingredients are 3 cups of sugar, half a cup of all-purpose flour, 3 tablespoons of dry mustard, 1 tablespoon of celery seeds, 1½ teaspoons of turmeric, 3 cups of white vinegar, and a half a cup of water. So I'm going to combine, Jennifer, you want to help me?
Sure.
My dry ingredients here. Don't you dare put that wet in. Because
Hands
before
off.
we do that, we want to combine everything. And now you can put that water in.
Okay. Water in the vinegar? Is that what it is?
Water and the vinegar. Now this is a version of chow chow, and it is really, really delicious. So I'm going to take this to the stove, and what you would want to do is bring it to a boil, add your vegetables, bring it back to a boil, and cook for 30 seconds. So we have one that's already boiling. I'm going to add my vegetables, so maybe you can take this one for me, Jen.
Sure. I'm just going to tell them a little something about the pickling cucumbers.
Oh, yes.
On the pickling cucumber, you have a stem end and a flower end. The blossom end has an enzyme in it, and if you don't cut it off, it's going to make your pickles go soft. So you want to make sure that you remove it.
So now I've added my vegetables.
Can I put this on the stove?
All right.
That's great.
Now, if I weren't your sister, I would have just let you stand there, but...
I know.
Now, we're going to cook this, as I say, once it comes back to a boil for about 30 seconds.
So while she's waiting for that to come back to a boil, I might as well start talking about my asparagus pickles.
Oh, no, don't you dare. Let me finish. You can get me a jar, maybe?
Okay, I'll get a jar.
Now, this recipe makes 5-pint jars.
Okay, 1 jar. We're using the wide mouth jar because it's easier to fill.
And we're going to use the wide mouth jar for asparagus for the same reason. All right. Ooh, it's boiling now, so I'm going to bring this back
to get
over.
out of her way.
Very good idea. Now, something else we're going to do that's a little different in this recipe. We want to put all of our vegetables with a slotted spoon into our jar first, and then we're going to add our liquid. Because if you don't do that in that order, then what will happen is you'll have a lot of vegetables floating around.
Too much liquid for vegetables.
Yes, and there's nothing worse than opening a jar of pickles and you don't have anything but juice. So
Yeah, 2 pickles and a lot of brine.
now we want to leave our head space as always. Let's have a look here. Now I'm going to put some of, okay, great. I'm going to put some of our liquid in.
And
Oh, do you want that jar filler again?
that'd be great.
Yes. Now,
Cuts down on the mess.
and I can see where we've spilled some, but that's why you always wipe that rim. Great.
So that's perfect.
Now another thing we're going to do
Whoa.
before Jennifer starts her recipe is you want to have a look and make sure that there aren't any air pockets. So you can just slide your spatula down or...
Can I finally talk about
yes,
my pickles?
just let me wipe my rim, slip a lid on that, and I'll be done.
Okay.
You
So what
got
we
me a
need...
lid?
I'm still not allowed to talk about my asparagus pickles.
This is such a good recipe, really. I want you to try it. It's really good.
You
Yes.
obviously like it better than my asparagus.
No, sir. I love your asparagus. I love your asparagus. But I just want to be done mine. Process this for 10 minutes. Hey, Jen.
You're sure?
I'm sure.
Okay. For
I'll
our
help you.
asparagus pickles, we need 2 to 2.5 pounds of fresh asparagus. We're going to cut them to about 4 or 4 1/4 inches. We need 3 cups of white vinegar, 4 jalapeno chili peppers, 4 cloves of garlic, 2 teaspoons of dill seed. We're going to use 3/4 cup of water, and we're going to use 3 tablespoons of sugar, granulated sugar, a teaspoon of pickling salt, and 1/8 teaspoon of pepper. So we're going to put all of our ingredients except for our asparagus, our jalapenos, our dill seed, and our cloves of garlic into our saucepan. We want our brine to come to a boil. And then we can pack our jars. Jane will take that to the stove while I get my jars ready.
Will I?
Yeah, I thought you
will.
might. You might want to give that a stir. So I have a jar here that's nice and hot. And I'm going to put 1 jalapeno pepper in it and use my spoon and about 1/2 teaspoon of the dill seed. Now if you want, you can put that into your brine, but we like to put it into the bottom of our jar. Then we turn our jar on our side.
Look what a big help I was.
I know, you're such a big help. Finally, she's let me do my recipe too. We put our tips down for our asparagus.
And the reason we do that is because when you open your jar and you want to reach in and take some asparagus, it's a lot easier to grab the fat end. So,
A lot
need
easier.
any help?
Nope, that's good.
All right.
Now we're going to pour our brine over top, and
You put your jalapeno pepper in already?
my jalapeno pepper
Okay.
is in.
Now, Jennifer's recipe has to be processed 5 minutes longer than mine.
Yes. I'm just going to give this another little stir.
Oh, no, I brought you yours.
Oh, you brought me the right one.
You see, I was
she
helping.
is helping me.
I'll put it in for you. Now, this recipe, 15 minutes.
This recipe is processed for 15 minutes in our boiling water bath, and it makes 4 pints.
So
In
we'll just
total.
wipe our rim, put our snap lid on.
And we'll see in a little bit.
We'll be back.
On our craft segments, you normally see me making things that are a little bit fanciful, maybe a little bit different. Today I'm talking practical, and practical is very good. Now this is a great idea for somebody who has a housewarming or a newlywed. Maybe this could be given to somebody who loves to garden or who would like to start. And this for the avid cook or somebody who likes to experiment. So for the newlywed, maybe you could grab a colander, and if you spend a couple of extra dollars on a colander, you can get one that will last for years and years. Add some tea towels, a couple of kitchen utensils, and of course your preserves, which are always the focal point. Now that's a practical idea, and they're going to remember you for that. For the gardener, take a terracotta pot. We have 3 different ones here. They're all different sizes. And for this we've painted it. We used a newspaper that we've scrunched up, dipped it in some paint, and that gives it a really unique antiqued look. For our bold and bright terracotta pot, this has been painted in a base coat of very bright blue, and then a sponge has been cut out in the shape of a star, and that was sponge painted all over the pot in a lot of different colors. Put your preserves into the flower pot with either some Spanish moss or some dried hay or whatever to cushion your jar, and then as a finishing touch, Add some packets of seeds. This will get the gardeners started in the spring. Now for the cook. Jane loves to experiment, so this would be a really good idea for her. A bamboo steamer with some rice paper, some bamboo chopsticks, a little mini cleaver, and of course your preserves. That's a good idea, and it gets somebody maybe started on a little different ideas for their cooking in the kitchen. So all of these are great ideas. You can experiment, use different types of containers, but each of them are practical and they're all environmentally friendly. So that's it for the craft segment. I'll see you in the kitchen.
Well, we're back with horseradish beet relish and
Antipasto relish.
I'm going to start with my recipe. For horseradish beet relish, you're going to need 5 medium beets, which you have cooked, peeled, and chopped finely. And if you don't want to use fresh beets, you can use 1 14-ounce can of beets. You're going to use 1 large onion, peeled and finely chopped, 2 red peppers, seeded and finely chopped, 1 cup of white vinegar, half a cup of granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon of pickling salt, and 2/3 of a cup of grated fresh horseradish. It is hard to say horseradish. Now, if you don't have fresh horseradish, use the prepared stuff. I'm not even going to try to say it again. Now we're going to combine that stuff,
Horseradish.
and the vinegar, the sugar, and the salt. You want to take this to the stove, bring it to a boil just to dissolve the sugar.
And Cinderella's going to clean up.
Now, I have one here. You want it to be hot and for the sugar to be dissolved. And you can see my horseradish is still there. It smells wonderful. Now, this recipe makes about 3½ cups.
And I'll put in your red pepper.
I love the smell of beets. Now, I'm going to bring this back to the stove, turn it on to high, bring it to a quick boil, and then I'm going to simmer it very gently, uncovered, for about 20 minutes. And I'm going to use this again.
Those handles are hot.
You can see the lovely color, but look at the color of this. This is our finished product. I have a feeling if you try this recipe, it's going to replace any relish you've been used to making with beets.
I'm going to get you a jar.
All right. Now this recipe, when we're finished putting it in our bottles, we're going to process it for 15 minutes in our water bath canner.
And that's the jar we had in our boiling water bath. It's been there just to keep it nice and hot. There's your jar filler. I bet
Great.
you want a ladle.
Yes, I wouldn't mind.
So we'll
This is
ladle
a
that in.
really, really nice recipe.
Maybe just a speck more.
It goes really well with any kind of meat dish. Now, I just want to have a look and see if we see any of those air bubbles that we can show.
I see one there. We slide our spatula in the side of the relish to remove the air bubbles. And sometimes you need to readjust your headspace if you have a lot of air in your jar. Then we wipe the rim, and Jane's going to put her lid on.
Now, of course, my lids were simmering gently for about 5 minutes. Soften the compound.
Here, since I'm on this side, I'm
Screw band
closer.
fingertip tight.
There we go.
Horseradish beet relish.
Now, antipasto relish. For this recipe, we need 1 cup of broccoli and cauliflower florets. We need 1½ cups of onions. Now, these are the pickled onions that you find at the grocery store. We need 1/2 a red, yellow, and green pepper, 2 carrots that we've peeled and finely chopped, 1 jalapeno chili pepper that has been seeded and is finely chopped, 2 cloves of garlic that are very large, 1¼ cups of sugar, and 1/2 cup of water and tomato sauce. We also use 3 cups of vinegar. We use 1 tablespoon of pickling spice, just 6 little peppercorns, 2 bay leaves, and 2 teaspoons of dried oregano. Jane's going to show you how to mix your spices, and I'm going to put all of our ingredients that I need into our saucepan.
Now, I don't know if you've made a spice bag before. Our oregano is going to go in with our other ingredients, but these 3 ingredients would go into a spice bag. Now, this is just a piece of cheesecloth. We put these 3 spices in and tied it up. But here's another alternative. This is a tea ball, and it works really well once you get it open. There. So what I could do is I could put my ingredients in that, slip my cover back on, and then when I was done with it, just pull it out, rinse it off, and use it again the next time. It works very well, but if you're used to using cheesecloth, then
that works well too. Now I put our water, our vinegar, our tomato sauce, our sugar, and our dried oregano into our saucepan. We're going to take this to the stove and bring it to a boil. Once it's begun to boil, which I have one here that's all ready, we bring it over and we put all of our vegetables into it. Jane, you can grab. All of these vegetables are going to go into it, and this is going to cook for about an hour.
Now, antipasto is a real favorite at our house too. What we like to do is after we've made our antipasto and it's been on the shelf for a while, and you're thinking, what could I have that's really delicious? You can take a jar of antipasto and add to that 1 tin of tuna, half a cup of green olives, half a cup of black olives, and 1 cup of sliced mushrooms. Just delicious.
It's a half a cup of the sliced mushrooms.
Well, maybe I add a little more.
You like
maybe
a little more.
Maybe I really like mushrooms.
So this is going to go to the stove, and it's going to cook for another hour. And this is what we have. We want to reduce all the liquids that are in our saucepan, and you can see the volume in this saucepan has gone down a lot from what we had before. Now we're just going to jar it. And with this recipe, we're going to process it for about, and we're not going to process it for about, we're going to process it for 10 minutes. And it makes 3.5 cups. So I'm going to bring my jar over, fill it up. Now I was nice enough to bring you a ladle.
Hey, oh, but I have a lid for you. That doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
There's your ladle.
Okay, well I'll just fill this jar.
All right.
We're just about done. You can adjust the amount of liquid that you have in it.
Now your headspace, Jennifer, I'm just going to rinse this off.
I'm going to put a little more liquid in it.
Because you're going to want to adjust the headspace on that too. I can see a few air bubbles there.
Okay.
Great.
There we go. Actually, I don't need to adjust the headspace at all. It's working perfect.
Put a ring on that, process it, and you're all set. Today's success tips are all about pots. The first pot I want to talk to you about is a copper pot. Now, although copper is great for cooking many things, preserves are not one of them, because copper pots can affect both the flavor and the color of your preserves. So no using copper pots. Also with aluminum. Thing about aluminum, now this pot in particular, of course, isn't large enough to make preserves in, but I did want to show you an aluminum pot. Aluminum pots do not give you an even heat distribution. You'll end up with hot spots, and that's a no-no. But here are some pots that are great to use. Stainless steel, can't beat it. Now this pot has an extra layer of steel that was adhered to the bottom, great for preserves. This is a stainless steel pot that is one solid piece of stainless steel, also great. And of course you've seen us use glass pots on, put a lid on it. They're also wonderful for making preserves. The only thing I want you to remember about glass pots is they do tend to retain their heat. So stainless steel and glass, no problem. Aluminum and copper, don't use them. So grab your pens, papers, or laptop because we have the recipe recaps coming up.
You'll need 1 quart of pickling cucumbers cut into thick chunks, 4 cups of cauliflower florets, 1 cup of tiny peeled onions, a half a cup of pickling salt, 6 cups of lukewarm water, 3 cups of granulated sugar, a half a cup of all-purpose flour, 3 tablespoons of dry mustard, 1 tablespoon of celery seeds, 1½ teaspoons of turmeric, 3 cups of white vinegar, and a half a cup of water. Place vegetables in a large bowl and pour your combined salt and water over your vegetables and let stand for 24 hours. Combine your dry ingredients in a saucepan and stir until well mixed. Whisk in your vinegar and water. Bring to a boil over high heat, stirring constantly until smooth and thickened. Then add your vegetables and return to a boil for 30 seconds. Remove your vegetables from liquid with a slotted spoon and pack into jars. Pour your liquid over the vegetables and process for 10 minutes.
You'll need 1½ to 2 pounds of fresh asparagus spears, 3 small jalapeno chili peppers, 3 cloves of garlic, 1½ teaspoons of dill seed, 2 cups of white vinegar, ½ a cup of water, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 3/4 of a teaspoon of pickling salt, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of coarse ground black pepper. Place 1 jalapeno pepper, 1 clove of garlic, and ½ a teaspoon of dill seed into each jar. Pack asparagus in jar and combine your water, sugar, and salt in a medium saucepan and bring to a boil. Pour hot liquid over asparagus and process for 15 minutes. You're going to need 5 medium beets, 1 large onion peeled and finely chopped, 2 red peppers seeded and finely chopped, 1 cup of white vinegar, ½ a cup of granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon of pickling salt, and 2/3 of a cup of grated fresh horseradish. Cook your beets until tender and then drain, remove the skins, and chop finely. Mix your beets with onions and peppers. Combine vinegar, sugar, salt, and horseradish in a large saucepan. Bring to a boil over high heat. Add your beet mixture, return to a boil, reduce heat, and simmer uncovered for 20 minutes, stirring occasionally. Then ladle your relish into jars and process for 15 minutes.
You'll need 1 cup each of small broccoli and cauliflower florets, 1½ cups of pickled onions that have been drained, 1/2 each a large sweet red, yellow, and green pepper that are diced, 2 carrots peeled and thinly sliced, 1 jalapeno chili pepper seeded and finely chopped, 2 large cloves of garlic that are minced, 3 cups of white vinegar, 1 1/4 cups of granulated sugar, 1/2 a cup each of water and tomato sauce, 1 tablespoon of pickling spice, 6 peppercorns, 3 bay leaves, and 2 teaspoons of dried oregano leaves. Combine your garlic, vinegar, sugar, water, and tomato sauce in a large stainless steel or enamel saucepan. Place pickling spice, peppercorns, and bay leaves in a small square of cheesecloth. Add your spice bag and oregano to vinegar mixture, bring to a boil over high heat, reduce the heat, and stir until sugar is dissolved. Add all vegetables, return to a boil, reduce the heat, and boil gently for 1 hour or until the mixture reaches a thick consistency. Remove the spice bag, ladle relish into jars, and process for 10 minutes.
Well, we're sure you've guessed by now, we love pickles.
And we love relish. And we hope you loved getting those recipes as much as we loved showing you.
And we want you to try them. And if you happen to try them, why not make a few extra? Because you never know when you're going to be asked to make a donation to someone's bake sale or maybe a sale at your child's school. And trust us, nothing sells faster than homemade preserves.
We have a great show coming up on curds and butters, and it's one you're definitely not going to want to miss.
We're going to teach you how to make lemon curd with some great variations, lime and tangerine.
And we're also going to show you how to make sweet and chunky apple butter and apricot honey butter.
So thanks very much for joining us today. We've had a great time, and we hope to see you next time on Put a Lid on It.